This is Aesthetically Trained, the podcast. Pushing you to year-on-year progression. With your host, Ross McKinley.
Yo, Ross McKinley, Aesthetically Trained, the podcast. And today, a very special guest. I call everyone my good friend, and that's because so far I've known most of the guests who come on. And here's another one for you. Another fantastic character, a great coach, James Boardman, the man coach, as he calls himself. But he's also got a lot of other cool stuff about him. We're going to talk about that today. James, how are you? Welcome.
What's going on? Thanks for having me on. Great to see you and catch up with you.
Fantastic. Good. So James is, how long have I known you now? I've known James through Dan Hycock, who come on. Everyone will remember I mentioned that I met Dan in Thailand. James was at the same place, although he wasn't out quite as late. He was home early. He's a good bloke. That's where I met James. We were in a mastermind together a few years ago. And since, we've kept in touch. James has actually done the 28-day challenge, so he knows a little bit about what I do. And I've got a lot of help with off and from him over the past few years as well. So James is a former Marine. He helps men through his business, the Man Coach. He's also got another business, which is for, what would you say, businessmen and business women?
Online, so it's, online entrepreneurs.
Yeah, online entrepreneurs, which is his time domination. And he's also just been telling us before we started the call about another business that he's got coming up as well. So he's a very successful bloke. More importantly, he's a good guy. So I want to get him on to teach you some lessons today and hopefully impart some wisdom on the listeners and watchers on YouTube and on Spotify. So James, for the people watching and listening, if they didn't know you, which they don't yet, where do you want to start?
Man, I don't mind. Like, I think maybe starting with the backstory, maybe,
yes.
If you like.
Yeah,
you happy with that?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'm not going to go all the way back because nothing really exciting happened until I joined the Royal Marines. Do you know, it's an interesting fact. Before I joined the Royal Marines, I was a store manager at McDonald's.
Really?
Yeah. Not a lot of people know that, actually.
No.
No, so I actually was. The only reason it's fresh in my mind because I'm proofreading my second book at the minute, and I'm doing a little bit more about my backstory.
Yeah.
And when I came out of college, I went through the apprenticeship through McDonald's, and at the time it was pretty good structure. And I made my way up, and I was running like a £6 million store. And it was like mental. You know, we were doing £12,000 hours.
Really.
Yeah, it was mental. And I was like only 22. I was the dickhead. Absolute, like, you know, I fucking knows how I was running that store.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the time, I was very lost at the same time. Like, I knew that's what I wasn't wanting to do. I always knew there was some, I don't know, like a fire or drive to do something exciting in life. You know, I wanted to go out and get it. And I just didn't know what that was. Until I went to the cinema with my missus to go and watch Black Hawk Down. Do you remember that film?
Yeah.
And just before the film started, there was a Royal Marine Commando advert. And I don't know if you've ever seen the advert. There's this young lad running across the open field and he goes through the tunnel and he gets his trouser leg snagged and it's saying, "Where's your limits?" And basically it's him getting through that tunnel and he's going off and he's sprinting. And the next scene, he's on this boat, commando boat at night, got his green beret on, camouflaged, face like an elite operator, ready to go to war. And I was like, fuck me, I'm just seeing what I want to do. Like within that 2 minutes, I was like, Oh my God, that's what I want to do. And then I watched the film Black Hawk Down and I come out and I was like, I was in the careers office 2 days later asking, like, what's the most elite force out there? And the rest is history. I joined the military. I literally quit my job. I cancelled my marriage 6 weeks before I was due to get married. I literally run away and joined the military. Not a lot of people know that. And I just completely changed my life and dealt with the consequences of the sudden change of direction as I was going through the military, you know. But, you know, I ended up joining the military and finding purpose, thriving. I found my identity. I found what life was about. And it was me. It was a bit of me, you know.
Fantastic. Would you say, do you think that purpose that you are searching for, how would you say it relates to what you're doing now? So in the Marines, that sense of fulfillment from, you're fucking changing the world, aren't you really? And it's at such an elite level.
Yeah.
How did you transition to what you're doing now in terms of coaching men through the Man Coach, through your book? I didn't add that in at the beginning. He's an author as well. How does that relate? Would you say that, or what would you even describe that fulfillment as? Is it helping people? Is it making a difference? Changing the world? What would you say it is?
So I think it's on two fronts. So I grew up through life before joining the Marines, not really knowing what I wanted to do in life. Now, when I look back at life now, 22 is so young. Shit, man. Like, it is so young. And, my dad died when I was 6. And I had an emotional bully as a stepfather. So my mum was brilliant. She did the mum thing. But I really feel when you grow up, your dad is somebody that you kind of look up to, who helps guide you, gives you that straight talking advice, right? And I never really had that. So I really feel like until I joined the Marines, I lacked that direction. Mm-hmm. When I was in the military, I felt part of a bigger family, a bigger purpose. It was an identity that gave me strength, fulfillment and passion, because I was part of a brotherhood. The person to my left and my right, you would fucking do anything for them. Do you know what I mean? In war, in battle, in theory, you would do anything to protect them and keep them safe. And that gives you such a strong internal bond to life, I think, in terms of that fulfillment. I remember doing tours in Afghan and being like, you're watching everybody, you're looking after everybody. It's like you're just part of this bigger thing. And there's a couple of things. It's like all wearing the same lid. You wear the green beret, you earn that green beret. Everyone's going through the same pain and suffering to get to that point. You wear your Royal Marine Commando flashes on your arm and you walk around like you're 6 foot taller than you actually are, right? Yeah. So you feel unbreakable. And that sense of fulfillment I used to thrive at that. I used to have such passion for my job. I was a physical training instructor. So, at one point when we finished that course, we were considered the top 5% fittest people in the country. When we finished that course, that was an 8-month course. I was a sniper as well. So there was a lot of things whilst in there that really kept the fire burning. Do you know what I mean? It kept me going. When I left the military, within 1 weekend, that went. Like there was a huge identity conflict. Yeah. And I don't know how much of the story but like for 3 years, within the space of, I moved home to be with my children. Yeah. And within the space of 3 years, I was divorced. I was seconds away from taking my own life or attempting to. And my identity, purpose and fulfillment just crashed and burned because I didn't know who I was. Yeah. 1 minute I was Sergeant James Boardman. I was in charge of troops. I was in charge of training. I was in charge of development. I was in charge of 30 blokes as a troop commander. And the next minute I was in college teaching 16 to 19-year-old kids that didn't even want to be there, who didn't give a fuck what I had done. And I was lost, big time lost. And I sorted my shit out. And I left the job and started entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, at the very start for me, was a boot camp. I took my business to £100,000 business in the first year, not having run a business or knowing anything about a business, no mentors. It was just me, YouTube, and my personality and drive. Yeah. And in that first year of business, I found my fire again. I found my purpose in helping people. Mm-hmm. I saw transformations of lives. I saw people thanking me for what we were doing. I found a fire in terms of learning, absorbing information. And it was very much like the same feelings I had in basic training, where I suddenly felt like I was becoming an identity. Over 32 weeks of Royal Marine training really embedded an identity into me of who I was going to be. Yeah. Going through that first year of entrepreneurship created a much bigger purpose, a much bigger sense of achievement, for myself, achieving something I never thought possible, keeping my house because we were on the brink of financial, I was eating fucking Tesco baked beans, value baked beans at 7p a tin, because it's all we could afford, and that hunger and fire. And I've never really looked back. I've just controlled it much better, throughout the years. And in 2017, it was the dad coach. and then we transformed to the man coach.
Yeah.
And that's when my daughter was born at 4. And that's when everything changed again. And I redirected myself to want to live life on my terms more.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Good at talking. That's why I got you on. I think that the message there, I mean, the clear thing, I think it's probably what we're trying to do. There's loads of points I could touch on there, what you said, but it's proven what's possible and kind of proven for yourself and living life on your own terms, what you said there. And I think once you've done that for yourself, you then realize that, like you said, that it is possible. And I think what we do now, I had a monk on the show the other day. It was a fantastic episode. And I said to him, I think that everyone goes through these apprenticeships in life, or these challenges, whether it's through your work, through your career, through your relationships. And it's through those events that you kind of get your vehicle or your method that you end up wanting to spread your message, your purpose, whatever it is. But you're basically your way of helping people and your way of finding fulfillment. And I think for you, a little bit similar to me, it's showing people what's possible. And from my point of view, looking at you, and one of the big things that I wanted, to get you on for is that I have a lot of men talking about having a busy life, how it's different for men, or different for them rather. Maybe it's that they've got 2 kids, 3 kids, two ex-wives. They've had this go on in their life. They've lost this business. They've done that. They haven't got the time. Listen, everyone's got their own story of why it's different for them. For me, you've touched on some of your story there. You've potentially got as many excuses or how it depends on logical reasons why you might not have the time to train, why you might not have the time to work on your business, maintain your relationships, all these things. And yet I know from knowing you personally how productive, how on it, how organized you are. So how do you think you've done that, mate? And how, like you say, how did you rediscover that after the Marines? So, and then, how did you do it for the men listening? Because that ability you have, I think, is what makes you so much of a leader, I guess.
Cheers. But so I think the biggest thing is to realize that, like, a lot of the times, if you're telling yourself you don't have the time or you're a busy guy, you are actually just full of shit. And it's hard to take that. You're like, who the fuck is this guy? Do you know what I mean? But just drop your ego for a second. And really, you're just bullshitting yourself. And it's what I was doing to myself, I haven't always been in this position. It's worked very hard to be in the position I'm in today. Mm-hmm. And you talked about it a lot. You kind of go through these different experiences, and I kind of call them chapters of your life. Yeah. And you kind of go through different chapters of your life. And what we do is we learn, we grow, we repeat. Okay. And what a lot of people are not doing is they're not learning. So what I see in men quite constantly or quite consistently is a level of bullshit, a level of victim mentality and self-pity where we wallow in our own shit and it's like everybody else's fault. And I think the key thing is that changed it for me is taking responsibility for my actions. Yeah. Many guys will not take responsibility. Now, when you change the internal dialogue, what's going on in your head in terms, i.e. your state of mind, when you cut the bullshit and you look at yourself in the mirror and turn around and say, like, dude, you're just full of shit. You've got plenty of time to train. There's 168 hours in a fucking week. And if somebody's telling me that they can't have 1 hour out of 168 hours in a week to train, then there is seriously something wrong. Okay. Yeah. Your perspective on life is completely imbalanced. Like, dude, what we're talking about is 3 20-minute sessions a week. Yeah. 3 20-minute sessions a week. Or you could end up doing 6 10-minute workouts a week. 10 minutes, like fucking doing something. Yeah. The number one thing is to raise your self-awareness levels in terms of making this happen. And that was the first thing that I did. I took a look in the mirror and kind of looked at myself and realized that I was full of shit. Okay. And it's hard. And you got to drop the ego, because the ego is the thing that like blocks you from reality. Yeah. And it's really difficult to break through. But when you break through, you suddenly realize the things that are important. Do you want me to kind of touch base on the 4 pillars? And like,
I was just going to say, did that give you? So I think before we get into that, mate, I mean, I think that what you're saying there, and something that I've mentioned before on the podcast and all the time with my clients, is everyone's got to start somewhere. So you've got what James does, which is probably more for busier men who haven't got as much time. Like you said, they're starting somewhere 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. But starting somewhere and doing whatever you can, as I always say, the best you can with what you have available. And then from there, you can progress to, then it might be a 30-minute workout, a 45-minute workout. You know, people like Joe Wicks, all these people that you see on Instagram, people say, oh, it's not good, or they're just teaching people exercise. But someone somewhere started with a Joe Wicks workout on YouTube, or something at home, or whatever it is. And it's that start. It's whatever you need to do to start that then gets you to the next level. Some people, those fuckers with massive balls, will jump in and just sign up the 28-day challenge, what I do, straight away. And that'll be hard. And they'll go from 0 to 100 real quick, as they say. And that'll be difficult. But never let that jump stop you from just starting. I've talked about that a lot. Sometimes people look at me, look at James. Even I maybe with James a little bit with the level of work that he does and how successful he is. Sometimes I might be like, oh, I don't know if I'm willing to commit that level of time. I don't know if I'm willing to sacrifice my mornings and get out of bed. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't do something closer to the level that he's at. Just like it doesn't mean that the people that's watching or listening, if you want to do an extra little bit of cardio, you want to do that task, you want to start a new business, don't idolize people who have already fucking several chapters ahead of you and let that stop you doing just the next step. Sometimes I think optimal in all the information that's out there at the minute can get in the way of people starting because they think, I can't do what he's doing or what they're doing, so I'm not going to try at all. So I think just what you mentioned there about the just small sessions or something and looking at those 168 hours in the week it's massively important, isn't it?
Massive.
It gives everyone a chance.
And on that point, don't compare yourself to anyone, not me, not you. Like I made the decision not to unfollow everybody. Like I don't pay attention to my competition. I don't look at their profiles. I don't look at what other people are doing. What allows me to do is just be free in my own mind about what is success to me. Do you know what I mean? It's very easy to be influenced by what other people are doing and judge yourself compared to other people. Like, to put into context, I'm 43 this year. I've been training since I'm 14.
Yep.
I've been training military-wise for 9 years. And now for 9 years, I've been working on myself. You know, I'm 18 years. I've been trying to get to the point that I'm at now.
Yes.
And I'm still not always there now. And if you are judging yourself against what I'm doing, like I get up at 4:15 every single morning. You don't have to get up at 4:15 every single morning. To me, it's 4:15 to me is the same to like you getting up at 7, like, or do you know what I mean? At the weekend,
7's still early for me, mate. Don't worry about that.
I'm finishing my day at 7, but that's just personal preference to me because I've got my own reasons for doing that. I like to get up. I like to get ahead of the day because the way that I run my life is that my day finishes at 3, so I can be dad from 3 onwards and not work. That's so. Do you know what I mean? So. Don't judge yourself. Like, and I want to talk about the 1% like thing that I talk about a lot in my world. Yeah. And that's moving forwards 1% a day forever.
Yeah.
That is in theory building up micro wins. Now, if you showed up 1% a day, now that 1% a day might be not pressing snooze on your phone when it goes off. Mm-hmm. It might be getting up and going for a 2-mile walk. It might be getting up and having a pint of water in the morning. It might be getting up and going, I'm going to write the 3 things I'm grateful for. But if you show up 1% a day for the next 365 days, you would have improved 365%. Now, in that 365 day barrier, all those tiny little things that you think are not big enough are eventually going to form a habit, routine, structure, outcome. And along the way, you are going to hit some huge milestones. And it's not, and this is so fucking important. Impatience in men to change is rife. If it doesn't happen right now, if I'm not the all or nothing guy, fuck it, there's no point in doing it. But it's not where you can be next week, next month. It's where you can be. Where can you be in a year from now? Where can you be so that when it gets to next year, I turn around and say, what have you achieved? Well, I've done my 1% all the time. Along the way, I lost 2 stone. I improved my marriage. I've got work-life balance. I've got rules when I start work. When I finish work, I built up a £100,000 business. I changed my career. You can achieve anything you want when you start thinking about life long-term. Like, people think that they're running out of time or it's too late. Like, I'm 42. I always have this mindset that I'm going to live to 100. So I'm not even fucking halfway through. I'm not even at half time.
Yeah.
I'm not even half time and I'm fucking winning and I feel like I'm winning. So when people say they're 30 years old, oh, fucking life's over, I've got this and that, you could fail for the next 10 years and still have another 40, 50, 60 years to straighten yourself out. So it's kind of like, look in the mirror, get a grip of that shit, stop the victim mentality and start asking yourself, what's the 1% win today? And I think that's so powerful in terms of your mission, in your mission in life.
How old, before we move on to the 4 pillars, because I think that's really valuable to give people some structure and an idea of how you work. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you left the Marines?
So, good question. So 10 years ago. So I was 33.
So you were still in the time I'm 29 now, obviously. So you are still in crazy. Yeah. So in that time you've left, started a business, started another business, got to the point you are now, which you're right. It's a very valuable. I don't think it's crazy age. Yeah,
it's mental. At that age, I was divorced at 34, and that was all my fault completely. I was on the brink of losing my house at 34, 35. I nearly killed myself at 35. It's just been a rebuild to the point where now, I can honestly turn around and say I'm absolutely fully in control of my life because of everything that I've put into place, because I've worked hard to get. But there have been, I don't look at failures as failure. I look at failures as experiences.
Yep.
But I've had lots of experiences, lots and lots and lots. So I'm a little bit wiser every single time. And, those 1% wins, I still have 1% wins today, all of the time. I keep journal, I keep reflecting on it. And as we talk about the 4 pillars in a minute, it's balance as well.
Brilliant. So that's the next thing, like you said, the 4 pillars. I've wrote that down. I wanted you to cover that. Now, I've heard various examples or teachings of this on YouTube, and I'm sure that people have of this, essentially the structure of your life and well, I'll let you explain it. It's your thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
The way that I explain this is that if you think about a kid, or you even, you grab a piece of A4 paper, and what you do is when you just scribble like a complete and utter mess.
Yep.
That's how I visualize life, chaos. Mm-hmm. Now, amongst the chaos of that life, we need to find structure amongst the chaos.
Yep.
And when I started looking at myself, I was like, what are the areas of my life that I really need to find structure in? How can I find this fort in amongst the chaos that keeps me clear-minded? So I thought about 4 corners of a rectangle, and I drew this rectangle on this page, and then I drew the scribbles all around it so I could visually see the scribbles around it and then this fort in the middle. It kind of reminds me of a FOB that we used to be in Afghan, a forward operation base. In and amongst the enemy, there is just a stronghold. All right. Now, the stronghold is that if you work on these points, they will keep you clear-minded. They will keep you focused on on these points I'm going to talk about. Now, the pillars themselves are health. Now, under health comes mental, emotional, and physical. Relationships. So the relationship with yourself, the relationship with your family, and then the relationship with your friends and work colleagues. All right. So normally when I get people to think about this, I just say, look, initially, think about the family, the closest people to you in terms of relationships.
Yep.
Personal development. How are you growing? How are you developing personally? What are you doing to improve you? And then the last one is business. So whether you're in business or whether it's your career. If you think about your life being made up of 25% of each of those pillars.
Yep.
Now, I would say that the majority of people listening would say that their attention, their energy, their time, their stress levels are made up of between 75 and 90% work.
Yes.
I would say maybe 1% personal development, maybe 5% health, maybe 5% family. There is complete imbalance, which means that if you think about your little rectangle amongst the scribbles, all right, that means there is an imbalanced structure. So the chaos of life seeps in, gets in, takes over in your state of mind, and you start doing stupid stuff like drinking, taking drugs, sleeping with other women, like gambling, coping mechanisms to deal with the chaos.
Yeah.
The key is not to try and change everything at once. Okay. The key is to establish where you are within your pillars. So we do a life audit. So a life audit would be scoring yourself out of 10, 10 being an absolute boss, 0 being, you know, there's nothing going on there. Mm-hmm. So write down on a piece of paper, health, PD, relationships, business, and out of 10, score yourself. But you're not allowed to score yourself a 7 because that's a cop out. All right. So no 7s. You're either 0 to 6 or you're 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Okay. I never score myself a 10. And I tell everybody that scores themselves a 10, never to, because if you get to the point where you're nearly at 10, you're ready to go to the next level. So when you go to the next level, we push our comfort zones a bit and we stretch ourselves. And that means usually that score comes down a bit because we're going to have to raise our game. It's kind of like doing jiu-jitsu, being a beginner white belt, getting fucked up every single week, then becoming a proficient white belt. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm smashing all the white belts. And then you go to become a blue belt and then you're fucking the little fish again. So, you know, think of it like that. Once you've got your scores, that gives you a good reflection about where you are in terms of your life, like across the board, right? Across those pillars. And then you can look at it and go, right, now I'm going to do that again tomorrow when my ego's not talking, or when I'm not feeling like I'm in a bad mood. Yeah. And then do it again a week later at the weekend when there is no stress, because what can happen is that depending on your emotional state at the time you do it can depend on what your scores are. So you need to flush out all of your bullshit and all of your ego so that you're in a neutral mood. Okay. And you can do this properly. So first audit, it's probably going to be inaccurate. Next one, kind of review it. I'd probably do it 5 days later, maybe at the weekend at a coffee house, and then kind of do it in a neutral mood. Does that make sense?
Makes loads of sense, mate. So where do we go from there? Once we've got a score, what would you say? What's the next steps? Even for I think I might even do this week. I'm just starting a new block. I had a lovely break last week up in Scotland and then in Wales, climbing snow. And I think I had a bit of a recharge and I'm going to reset myself. So maybe something that I do. So where do we go once we've got those scores? And what's your steps? How do you implement it, if you like? Yeah,
it's good. A good question. So when you look at it, you kind of got to ask yourself, okay, what's important here? So we've got to start prioritizing. Okay. Now, I would always say that we're going to work on all of them, but it depends how much energy and time that we're going to put into the priorities. Now, if you try to put all of your energy and all of your time into all of them, trying to change everything at once, you're going to dilute that time and energy, and you're going to become mentally and emotionally burnt out, right? Trying to change your life. And it's the classic after 2-3 weeks, just can't be fucked. That system's wank. I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Choose a primary pillar that you want to work on. Okay. So that's like, and then set some goals to achieve. I'm a 4 in health. How do I get to a 6 in health in 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Then you characterize the steps that you need to take to go from a 4 to a 6. So when you score yourself, ask yourself why you've scored that. So if you're 2 stone overweight, if you're consistently eating shit, if you're drinking too much, if you are still smoking, if you are becoming too stressed out, think about, right, to get to a 6, in my mind, what do I need to be? I need to be a stone lighter. I need to be making sure I hit my calories at least 4 days out of 7. I need to make sure I'm drinking a litre of water. I need to cut my drinking down to 1 day. So you start writing down these characteristics of each pillar.
Yep.
Then what you have is this to-do list. So you know what a 4 is, you know what a 6 looks like. So what do you need to do? So you write down your to-do list of what you need to do. Then you kind of look at the next 4 weeks or the next 12 weeks, however long preference works for you, and go, right, this is what I'm going to do to work on being a 6 in 4 weeks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I think what you've said there, when it relates into what I do, I think imagining what I've realized just through your talking there, but a realization for me is when I'm always talking about improving your life and how the gym helps you expand into other areas. I think that is through, I'm really focusing on that one area of health or the physique with men. And then it's through that focus and the energy that they gain from that they then almost start imagining their cups overflowing, if you like. And then it's from that they can then go into the relationships because they've got more confidence in the challenges in the gym. It's giving them the ability to go after adversity, all these things. And it's from focusing on that one area rather than as I always say, chasing two chickens, catching on, like focusing just on one thing, improve that, go 100% all in on it. And then the confidence in doing that will then allow you to expand and move into other areas and having that kind of one singular goal at a time. So on that, mate, then which rolls in nicely, productivity in business and just your life, your scheduling, I think is, unless you're very, very good at when I've met you and on social media, pretend to be that way, but certainly to me, you always seem mega organized. Like you said there, you've always finished at work every day at 3 o'clock to have time with your family, which I think is very admirable as well. I'm sure a lot of the men listening will be buzzing to hear that that's possible to have successful businesses and do that.
Yeah.
Productivity, tips, lessons, go.
All right. So for me, productivity is really understanding what is your priority. Okay. And breaking down into lots of segments. So I'm just going to, if I may, I'm just going to kind of run through my day, which will maybe help explain this.
That'll be good.
So I get up at 4:15. First 15 minutes is kind of like getting up, having a piss, taking water, getting my first breakfast, sitting down. And I'm currently working on editing and finishing my second book and writing my third book. So from 4:30 to 5 is writing time. Okay. So I sit there and write my book. Now, the reason that I do it then is because there have been no external distractions. There's nothing like seeping into my mind. I'm kind of emotionally, mentally free. Does that make sense? So, I that's when you write best.
Quick question. Do you use your phone at that time or have you touched your phone yet?
I don't even look at my phone until I tell you when I look at my phone. So my phone, so I've got two phones. I don't know if so this cheap chavvy,
you can see that,
is little shitty one. So this is 20 quid.
Yeah.
This has no social media on it. And it has 8 numbers on for close family to get hold of me.
Yeah.
This is the work phone, this beast.
Yeah.
That's on aeroplane mode.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come off aeroplane mode. And I'll tell you when I take it off in a minute. But
Class.
I when I come to the end of my day routine, I'll tell you what I do with phone management.
Yeah.
So good point. There's no phone. And then at 5, get the dogs ready, get down the seafront, and we're out walking. Now, I'm out the house from 5 till 7, and we do quite a lot between that. So I go through this little routine. So I run 2 businesses, the Man Coach, Time Domination. So I would spend the first 15 minutes just doing some stories. And for me, I'm a big believer, if you show up at the very beginning of the day, as everyone's waking up, you are just implementing your pieces of positivity or thought process, just geeing everybody up as they get up. So Instagram story, Man Coach. Instagram story, Time Domination. Good. Walk another 15 minutes. And by the way, that's when the phone comes off, but it's on Do Not Disturb. So I don't get any notifications coming through. It's just on Do Not Disturb. Then we go into my shows. So we do the Rise to Thrive show, which is my show I've been running for 4 years on the Man Coach. Deliver content 8 minutes. Then go straight into the Time Domination show. Bang, 8 minutes. I then repurpose that across YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. Bang, that's all done. So I would say by 6:15, I've delivered 2 of my shows and I've shown up on all social media platforms, all done and dusted. All right. I then and what I try to do is get it all done by the time I reach halfway point in my walk, which is I do a 4-mile walk every morning. Right. So by the time I've got to 2 miles, that usually is all done, depending on how the signal's performing.
Yeah.
Then the second half of the walk, I turn my phones off again. Bang. No phones, just walking, embracing the morning, reflecting. I get to the car, put the dogs in, then do 10 minutes meditation on the beach or in a car if it's pissing down with rain. Okay. And then I'm usually home by 6:45 to 7 o'clock. Then from 7 to 7:30, I then have breakfast, go and see the girls, wake up the kids, get them all up and gym ready to go. Then from 7:30 to 8:30, I just sit at the table and I do my emails. I'm exhausted even talking about it. I do my emails. I touch base with all my mastermind members and all my clients. And that's done by 8:30. That's when my kids go to school. And as the kids go to school, I then come to the office. Now, when we come into the office, I want to introduce the kill zone. So the kill zone is your turbo productivity hack. The kill zone is about working on your number 1 priorities. Now, everything I've done so far is just daily business roles and responsibilities. Okay, showing up. So it's 9 o'clock by now. I've shown up already across the board. I've shown up to all of my clients. In theory, I've touched base with everyone. I'm now going to work on my number one priority. So the way the kill zone works is from for an hour and a half. So for me, from 9 to 10:30, I work on one task that moves my business forwards. So I'll give you an example. This morning, before coming on with you, I was filming for my brand new content legacy course. Yep. So phone is on airplane mode. This one isn't, just in case the kids need to get a hold of me. And I just smash out the filming. I don't look at my laptop. I don't look at distractions. I just film. And this morning, I managed to film 15 videos because I had them well planned. I knew exactly what we're going to do subjects on. So it's film, wipe the board, next one. Film, wipe the board, next one. Because there are no distractions. There are no pings, or no knock at the doors, because I've got a big sign on my front door saying, if you knock on a door, I'm going to fucking choke you out. Do not disturb. So, and every single one of my staff know that between 9 and 10:30 and 11 and 12:30, you will not get hold of me. Okay. And that's just the way it rolls. It's set the expectations. I don't look at my emails. Okay. I don't look at my social media messages. 9 to 10:30 is deep session 1. We are currently in my kill session 2. But I put that down to be with you from 11 to 12:30. Yep. So nothing else. And that just alleviates the stress. Now, if I said, right, kill zone 2, I'm going to work with Ross, then I'm going to film another 4 videos, then I'm going to go and check my email. Suddenly I'm starting to cram that space and it's starting to overfill.
Always just one task.
One task
Yeah.
that moves your business forwards or your career forwards. It's the main job. And when you think about energy management, okay, I'm getting up at 4:15. When I'm hitting 12:30, I'm starting to get tired. Like I'm yawning. I'm ready for a fucking old man nap. And, it might work different. So I just recognize my biggest energy spurt is from 9 to 12:30.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to throw all of my work into moving stuff that gets the business forwards. The content legacy is going to be a program. It's going to make the company money. It's what makes the business move forwards. Then I have half an hour lunch, and then I work on logistics, content scheduling, and forward planning. So all of the nitty bitty fucking jobs that need doing,
Yeah.
And I work on them from around 1 until 2:30. So it's kind of like a kill zone, but not.
Yeah.
At 2:30, I check my emails only once a day. From 2:30 to 3, I get back to people that have messaged me or emailed me, unless it's somebody that I'm friend, like for you, for example.
Yeah.
So like if it's you messaging me here, I'm happy to do it, or people that are close friends and stuff. And then from 2:30 to 3, I do a wrap-up session. So that's basically where I review the day and then plan my next day. And that's what's key.
Yeah.
And the way that I plan the next day is, what's my top 3 things that I need to do across all the pillars? It's not just business, it's across all the pillars. So what do I need to do in terms of maybe the family, in terms of my health, in terms of my business? So by the end of the day, I'm going to have achieved these 3 primary things. Then I'm going to achieve 3 secondary things. So 3 minor things that need doing. So it's the 3 and 3 list. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's good.
What people do is write to-do lists of 20, 30 things to do. Don't fucking achieve them. Then feel shit because they didn't achieve anything. And they end up doing everything but nothing. And then come home, absolutely take it out on the missus, fucking start drinking booze, do whatever they're going to do to fucking say, oh, my life's shit. And then feel like they're not moving forward. It's like a tidal wave about to smash you in the face when you do a huge to-do list.
Yeah.
The thing for me, and the biggest change in the last 3 years, is that it's not about what I can achieve tomorrow, next month, or this quarter. It's about where my life is going to be in 5 years.
Yes.
And we call this remembering the mission. I created a 10-year vision when I was 40 about where I wanted to be when I was 50. And I set these specific targets in all 4 pillars. And when you realize that you're working to a much bigger mission, and that each day is a 1% step in the right direction to achieving that mission, you don't feel the urge to have to do everything today.
Yes.
And especially if you're a business owner, you are just like, I want it now. I want that success that I visualize. I want to be in that place that I said I want to be at. But when you get to that point, you then want more, and then you want more, then you want more. It's just accepting that your career or your business is just 25% of your life.
Yeah.
So you, in theory, want to make sure that you're basing your business around your life, not your life around your business. Yeah. Okay. It's business/career. That's where a lot of people are going wrong. They are allowing their career to dominate their life.
Yeah. I think
Because
I think we use something, maybe it's a bit of a misconception, probably looking at you, would be that maybe it's that not the business is your focus, but even when you're reading your schedule out there, like people are like, fucking hell, he's doing so much, he's up at this time.
Yeah.
That Jocko Willink, or whatever you'll have heard of him, and his discipline equals freedom. That is essentially what this is about, what you're doing. You're only doing all of these things so that at 3 o'clock you can completely switch off. You've got your weekend, and it actually improves the quality of your time, whether it's in the gym, with your family, with your friends. It's all through having this discipline. It allows you the freedom in other areas. And I think that's often forgotten. And that's why it's such a cool quote, that discipline equals freedom, because it leads to you being able to do whatever you want if you can decide, like you said, and prioritize what areas are most important and then focus on just nailing those day in, day out. That 1% better every day. Remembering the mission, like you said, they're very, very, they're not just quotes, but they're almost like, what's the word? There's something to live by, aren't there? They're what do you have in meditations? Your mantras. They're almost like mantras where it's more important than a quote. It's a lesson to live your life by.
Yes, it's like a way of life. But the other thing as well, mate, if you look at you and you look at how conditioned you are, like, so for example, people will be listening to me and going, fucking hell, he does loads. But then people will be looking at you and doing your weights and going, my God, look how fucking strong he is with his legs.
Yeah.
It's all conditioning. Like, the way that I'm living my life now is this is the way I've conditioned my mind and my body and my emotions, because I follow like strict regimes, strict routines, strict mindsets, mental resilience. But it's taken it's taken a lot of work to get here. Just like it takes a lot of work to build muscle in the gym.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work here to get to this discipline. It takes a long time to have the aha moment where you go, right, 2:30 switch off time, like, and having the discipline not to react to the pings.
Yes.
And this doesn't just fucking happen overnight. Like, where I am right now has taken a shit ton of work. And I'll be honest, like, I attempted the 100-miler running at the weekend. And
yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
When I stopped that run, when I come off, I suddenly felt like the pressure was off. And I realized that I've been putting myself under so much pressure this first 6 months. Mm-hmm. Because I was trying to do too much. We had the house move. We had issues with the Facebook ads. We've got a baby on the way. And you realize when you step out of that situation, when you become that bird's eye view and you look down at your life or in the mirror and you go, you were taking on too much. You have that, I've got to learn little steps, managing. And since then I have fucking like nailed. Today I'm due to finish for 1:30, because I've nailed everything. And if you're listening to this, you go, fucking, there's no way I ever get to that. You can, but remember the mission. Like, remember where you can be in a year. Your aim should not be to where how I'm running my life, or to have muscles and have a body like yours in a month. It's to have it in a year, because it's not a fad. It's not a just come and go. It's a way of life. It's making this part of your DNA. It's lifestyle. And I think, when I see, like, your transformations are the best that I've seen online, and I genuinely think that. And I think to myself, right, now what for those guys, for those lads?
That's something I cover a lot.
100%. And I know you do, because I've been on your program. I know how well you do it, but that is the mentality that has to now be a way of life. It is for you, and you lead by example. When I see you on social media, I see you leading by example, because the gym is part of your life. It's part of your DNA. It's not something you yo-yo. And that's what we have to change in the mentality of men, is that this is not a fad. This is not like, I just need a good couple of months. This is fucking forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that as well, what to realise, and when we're touching on there, maybe is my strengths in the gym and training. And that's something that, if you're looking at your 25%, your quarters, that's something for me that'll probably always be 25%. It'll probably always be a full bar. I say it to my clients and to my friends all the time. I never miss training. I've just had some time off recently. I think if I think of over the last 52 weeks, I always say to the lads I coach, how many times have you trained? 4 times a week. That's what I like people to do, 4 sessions a week. And everyone listening now, if you think in the last 52 weeks, the last year, how many weeks have you trained 4 times? And most people sometimes think that when they have a good, some people think that mediocre is good. And like that, like, oh, well, in the last, even if you can't think the last year, I think the last 12 weeks. Sometimes people might think that like, oh, well, I've trained, 3 quarters, 8 out of 12 weeks. I've done 4 sessions a week every week. But me, I always do at least those 4 sessions, no matter what, always. Yeah. Sometimes, if anything, more. Sometimes I train twice a day just because I love training. But my clients and the transformers you see that are the very best, make no mistake, those lads, they might have 11 out of 12 perfect weeks, 46 out of 52. I think in a year, 40 out of 52 is pretty good because that's 4 12-week blocks with a week off in between each 12-week block, in between each quarter. That's how I like to work it. But relating to what you were saying, whether it's with business, some people with relationships, their own self-development, whether it's meditation, reading or whatever, every person has an area that they fall back on and also almost that they use as a coping mechanism. So something I'm very aware of is that whilst fitness is my strength, it can also be my weakness because sometimes I can use it as, oh, well, I've still trained this week, but I might have actually avoided some of the tasks in my business area. And like for you, I know you, James, you're that busy on business. And when we've talked about the mentorships and stuff and the weekends I've had away, sometimes business for you is your main way. You're doing business, not at all costs, but it's your main focus. And then you'll justify your other areas with, oh, well, I've done this or I've done that. So that's always something to be aware of and realize that everyone's different. Everyone's going to have different strengths. And just because I'm nailing fitness all the time doesn't mean that my other 3 blocks are the same and that I shouldn't be putting as much focus into them. It's really good. It's a really, really good analogy.
It's non-negotiable. I call it non-negotiable. Like the gym for you is non-negotiable.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
You don't negotiate it. There are no excuses. It just happens naturally. It's the same for me. Like I train, I reckon 5 to 6 times a week, every single week. I can't the only time mix between running, jiu-jitsu, boxing, triathlons, ultras. And to me, it like I'm a little bit because I'm much older than you. Yeah. When I was like I hate saying at your age, it makes me sound old. But I did used to just want to train to look great. Do you know what I mean? But now it's about being fit for life. I want to lead example to my boy and my girls and my kids. I want to have the energy to still have my sex drive. I want to have the energy to still be able to get up in the morning and fucking get after it. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Healthy body, healthy mind, healthy business. And, it tends to lead to healthy relationships. So the way that I look at life is fit for life. The way you look at it is like, it's you, it's non-negotiable. You are, if you like, when I look at you, it reflects your business. It's strong, it's stable, it leads by example. And that's why we get on so well, because we share the same values, the same principles in life. And
those, and just to finish off on that point is that actually the area that everyone has a strength in, and some people might be listening or watching and think, I haven't got a strength. You'll have something that you're better at. And there's always lessons in those areas. So for me, the way I approach my training, like James said, it's non-negotiable. I'm always going to go to the gym. It's always at the same time every day. I'm always logging my workouts. If I took that approach, like James said, with what he does with his business and his approach to this kill zone, that's a very similar approach. He's always doing it every day. Everyone knows if they message me between 10:30 and 12, our clients, I'm not going to be on my phone because I'm in the gym training. It's every day, 10:30 till 12 every morning. That's when I train. James is the same for his business. If you take those lessons and think, right, that's when I'm going to do my business tasks. That's when I'm going to have structured time with my family where I'm off my phone. That's when I'm going to meditate. If you take those lessons in your one strength and just apply them every other area, you're going to gain so much more. When we had our junior on the other week, the monk, he said, we're talking about this approach to life and everyone being, like you said, the different areas, James. And he said, when we talk about meditation, said, some people say that meditation isn't for me. And he said, it's like saying that sleep isn't for you or training isn't for you. It's that same approach as for me. Like, you've got to train, you've got to work on your career, your business, you've got to work on your personal development, whether it's meditation, whatever it is. But my point is that there's always lessons in each area. And actually, one of the biggest ones I'm going to take from this podcast, like Jim saying, is having that structure discipline equals freedom, like you said, and remembering the mission, and that those 1% wins every day will get you to where you want to be, not necessarily next month. And I'm a culprit for that, in that a lot of my programs, you see these ridiculous changes and people think it's 28 days. To be clear, the 28 days, and I know James does similar things, coaches that run these programs are just an entry-level program to show people what's possible, to allow you to have the opportunity to see what you could do if you had everything right. It's then about, like what James said, continuing that moving forward to get to where you actually want to be and where it is your life, not just a photo, not just a one-day occurrence when you had that one good time you were in shape. It's about making that who you become, and that transfers into other areas.
The foundations, right? I always look at my 28-day course, and obviously mine's more about mindset and resilience. And I remember in my first year of business, I used to follow somebody called Bedros Keuilian, a big guy over in America. And I remember, never forgotten his statement. He goes, if you think about those people, those construction workers that build those skyscrapers, and you're building those skyscrapers higher and higher. And if you look at that skyscraper as you and your progression in terms of going to the gym, building up a lifestyle and stuff, and if you don't build the foundations, you're going to eventually get to a point where it just topples over that skyscraper. Yeah. And I look at my 28 days, and it's basically what you've just said, as those 28 days as the fundamentals and the foundations to grow and build on. Yeah. And if you don't nail those foundations, you are going to end up you're going to be on that hamster wheel of doom, as I call it. You're going to stop. You've got to get the emotional conditioning in check.
Brilliant. One last thing I want to touch on. We've covered loads of valuable stuff there. That's brilliant. I've got one final question for you before we move on to the quick fire round. Some people listening, no doubt, overwhelming might not be the right word, but certainly there's a lot going on there.
100%.
It takes a massive level of commitment to do that, and you've built up that over time. How do you avoid in that burnout? How do you avoid burning out?
I think it really comes down to managing your expectations. I think a lot of people work to a level of expectation where they are not conditioned to reach that expectation. So it's, I'm going to use hand signals here. So if you kind of think about your expectations right up here at the ceiling, this is where everybody expects themselves to be, whether they're comparing themselves to somebody else, whether it's their ego talking, whether it's because you used to be really fit in the gym fucking 10 years ago. And down here is actually where we are. All right. So there is a huge deficit that goes on here. So it's the expectations versus conditions deficit. So in here, okay, what we have is self-doubt, self-esteem, self-confidence, all things that are affected when we don't reach those expectations. Yeah. So what we try to do is throw ourselves into whatever it is that we're talking about here, whether it's health, business, relationships. And we have to work this much harder to try and reach those expectations. Now, when you're up here, you're in the red zone because you're not ready to be up there. Yep. So you become burnt out and your brain cannot withstand all of the things that you are doing. It is not ready. It's like me going onto a deadlift, trying to deadlift 240 kilograms. Yeah. I haven't deadlifted in 2 years. So I would have to go all the way back to just doing 60. Yeah. But it's like you asking me to deadlift 240 and I simply can't do it. If you visualize that as a burnout. So simply what we need to do is look at the expectations and be honest with yourself and realistic and drop them down to where you are. Okay, so where am I? Well, my expectations are, I think I could deadlift 60 kilograms. I think I could do 4 rounds of 10, okay, with plenty of rest in between, like bang. So I hit my target. Great. Let's stick at those expectations. Let's come back to them in 2 weeks. And let's see if we've built up a level of conditioning, if we've acclimatized, is the word that I like to use. Yeah. And then it's slow progression, like what we've talked about, into the 1%. Burnout is when you're trying to do just too much to reach those expectations, and the way that you work. And that's how I've seen business owners. That's how I've seen men. I agree. Listening to this, I would probably listen to this podcast twice, listen to it like freely, then make notes, then realize what's important to you, and reflecting on it. There's loads to take in. And the key points are: don't compare yourself to me or you. Do what is right for you. Yep. Take the key nuggets that really are applicable to you. Whatever I say is not right or wrong. The way that I work, the way that Ross works isn't right or wrong. It's just what works for us. And you have to find your system, your way of thinking, your lifestyle that you want. And if you don't know what that is, then start dipping your toe in different things to gain some experience of what you do like and what you don't. And then suddenly you start narrowing your path and direction about what you want. And along the way, you're building up your identity as well. You know, that identity of who am I? What do I stand for? What's my character? What are my values? What are my principles? Like yours are like very much based around the gym. Mine are very much based around my family. Like everything is based around how I wanted to be around my family. You know, having missed a lot of my older two being away at war and training for war, everything is predicated around them. And figure out what you want in life, and then don't try to achieve the world overnight. The whole life is a journey of milestones. And if you understand that, you avoid the burnout mentality.
Brilliant, mate. Class. Excellent advice. Right. The legendary 8 quick fire questions at the end.
Weston, here we go.
Yeah, the go from
Pink or brown?
Yeah. That's not what we're gonna be saying. They're gonna get there. They're gonna go from easy to hard, if you like, and everyone kind of has their thoughts.
Do I have to answer quickly, or do I get time to think?
You'll need longer as you get towards the end. So the first one is just quite simple. So, are you ready?
I'm excited.
Cool. You'll enjoy. You get the end. You get some good answers. Now, what I want to say with some of them, don't think about it too much though. Like, don't worry about. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. We'll just say so. TV or reading?
TV.
Football or rugby?
Football.
Mornings or nights?
Morning.
Run or wait? I know you've done a lot of running.
Run.
Right, we've warmed you up. We're into it. So, what is the best place you've visited? You can go a little bit longer on these ones, or you can elaborate a little bit more.
Venice Beach, Santa Monica.
Oh, that's good. When did you go there?
1998. When
Class.
I was traveling, and I remember pulling a Pamela Anderson lookalike. Oh my God, are you from England? So I'm a sunset, sunrise type of guy. And I remember surfing to the sunrise right next to Muscle Beach. And it was one of the most incredible experiences, sitting on a surfboard with some of the guys staying in a hostel opposite Muscle Beach.
Yeah.
And basketball courts. It was incredible. Yeah, incredible.
Awesome. Other side of that question, other side of the coin, as they say, what is the worst place you visited?
Afghanistan.
For reasons clear. Now, fully enough, you say that, I think I mentioned before, my good pal Jerome, who I trained with, he come on the podcast and he had it was an unbelievable answer. It was class. His best and worst place was Afghanistan.
Oh, was it? Wow.
Yeah, because he was saying about the positives obviously was so big, but also as I'm sure the negatives.
What was really hard to see, I really hate seeing people struggle. And I think when you see scared villages, scared people who don't know what to expect, you almost don't want to leave those villages because you want to protect them. And I see that a lot. You know, you see a lot in the news with Syria and a lot of people that look fragile and kids and stuff. And it's pretty heart jerking to I remember being there and just you wanting to do more. You're wanting to really get after these fuckers that are over there. So that, I think for that reason, that's why I found it pretty difficult.
Yeah. Next, what is the worst piece of advice you have ever been given?
Wow, that's a good one.
Now, while you think, I'll give you, it could also be, what I've said to people in it could also be something that you regularly hear that you completely disagree with.
There's no such thing as work-life balance.
Elaborate.
I remember listening to a podcast. No, was it podcast? It was Clubhouse, and one of these rooms, and they will talk about time management. And this guy come on and said there is actually no such thing as work-life balance. And he was going off on his reasons, and I was tearing my hair out. And I often feel that when people say there's no such thing as work-life balance, it just means they don't know how to live work-life balance.
Yeah,
and I was just
they
like,
don't have any.
You fucking prick. Like, and it was really pissing me off because he was giving really bad advice to people who need that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, entrepreneurship has the potential to mentally, in terms of mental health, destroy people. Like, you know, And I think if you don't get the balance right, one of my core reasons is to really help business owners not stress out about running their business. And when I listened to that guy, it was just lucky that I didn't get on that Clubhouse when I was trying to. I was desperately trying to get my hands up there. But when I looked into him as well, he just was not a good coach.
Yeah. I think sometimes people who don't have something will justify their relative success with possibly the thing they don't have. So they'll say, well, I haven't got any work-life balance, but that's why I am where I am. And they'll use the negative to validate the positive, if that makes sense. I think you see that a lot. And that's across all areas as well. It's when people say that it's like with training and dieting that you can't, you can never drink on a weekend, or you can never have a cheat meal, you can never do that. It's like that isn't true. You have to be willing to put the sacrifices in, but actually, going back to what we've talked about, if you've got the structure, the routine, the habits, the outcome. I love that when you said that before. If you've got that, you can have it all. It's looking at the trade-offs and then deciding what you aren't willing to do. And going back to everything you said this episode is that the clearer you are on your priorities, the easier it is to make these decisions without emotion. 100%.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. There's been loads that stand out, but that's one that recently just stood out for me that really kind of upset me a little bit just in that respect, because it doesn't fill people with hope, does it? Do you know what I mean? No. You could, when I listen to a lot of people, and I listen to a lot of people, like, not necessarily because I'm looking for that advice, but I'm interested in what people's views. I'm very aware of the things that I say will stay in people's mind, because the things that I've learned along the way have stayed in my mind. Mm-hmm. But I've kind of made my own decision. That's why I always say, listen, everything I say isn't right or wrong. It's just personal experience or thought process. I don't necessarily want you to be like me. I don't want you to live like me. This is just what's right for you. It's just maybe an interesting fact. You don't necessarily have to go away and learn anything. But I think that's where we as coaches have that responsibility to that some people listen to every word that we say.
Yes.
Which is also why I show my vulnerable side of when I'm having a bad day, because everybody like, fucking JB never struggles. He never has a bad day. When I do, I really do. And that's why it's important to get that message right. Brilliant.
Last one, probably figured out what it is. We've had the worst piece of advice. What is the best piece of advice?
Great. God, I've been given some, so I just want to give me a second just to. So I would say it's one that's prevalent for the way that I'm living right now. If you're not living life on your terms, you can't call yourself successful. And I think that's personal preference. And some people might turn around and say that's actually the worst piece of advice. Again, it comes down to how your own mind and brain works. And the reason that I think about that piece of advice that was given was because that if you're not living life on your own terms, you're most likely living a life that's making you unhappy. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, happiness is one of those things that I want to feel throughout my life, as much as I possibly can. Yep. And it doesn't matter what I do in my health, what my milestones are, my books, my business, my client success. It all means nothing unless I'm living life the way that I want to live my life.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It does, mate. It does 100%. I think something that, going back to a great quote I just learned of the week, and this was from Arjuna, the monk who come on the podcast, something he mentioned when I talk about success, and it really stuck with us, was that people sometimes judge success. You have to define what is success to yourself. But he mentioned about like money in the bank, and he says you've got two different kinds of wealth, if you like. You've got your number in the bank account, but you've also got abundance in terms of like what you are able to do, how free you are, how much freedom you have. Someone could have all the money in the world, or certainly a lot of it, but if they've got so many commitments, they're getting dragged all over, they're doing all these things that they don't want to do, or they're really rich, or they're really wealthy. So there's always different opinions and versions of success. And I think living it on your own terms, I think certainly for us and what we do, that's what probably gives us what sense of fulfillment is, that we're doing it. I had this conversation yesterday that to me, it's very important that I do stuff my own way. And I think that the more that people get into that and they find what their way is, the more fulfillment and the more joy that they'll have in their journey.
I completely agree. You know, living life on my terms is my definition of success. Like, it's not money in the bank. Like, you know, I could take my working day from 7 in the morning till 7 at night for the next year and a half, and I could probably turn my business into a £3 million a year business, like, if I wanted to. But the sacrifices, the stress, the outcomes, everything that would go with it would not be what I want out of life. You know, I could go just like that. And when I look and when I looked at the Christian Eriksen thing the other day, and when he dropped down, and he's a healthy 29-year-old dude who is a millionaire, he's got a great wife, great family, and just in the click of fingers, it almost was over. It really highlighted to me that actually it's not about being in this office past 2:30 and fucking driving my products and driving my brand. It's about actually being here as long as I possibly can and doing everything possible to be here as long as I possibly can. There is no rush to the process. It's just about each day going, I'm happy. Like, I live the way that I want to live. If I want to take a fucking day off to play golf, I will. If I want to go and watch my daughter sing at school, I will. I don't have to ask permission. I live life by my terms, and I set those expectations for my clients coming into my world. And I think it's the most powerful thing you can hold, you know, and I really agree with the monk who come on. In terms of the currency, like, there's money, and I guess more specifically, the most important currency is time, because money, you fucking lose thousands, but you can make it back. Time, we will never get yesterday back. Never. Do you know what I mean? And this is something, as I've got older, I've really connected more with. And I think to myself, blimey, my daughter is 16 this year. My boy is 14. God damn it. I'm 43. Shit. Like, time is passing by, and, you know, I don't want to be that, like, split second moment, like that tragedy that nearly happened on the footballer. Thinking back, I didn't achieve everything I wanted to achieve. You know, it's quite a somber note to finish on, but, you know.
It's brilliant. Live life on your terms. I think that's class. That's everything. It's been an absolute pleasure. Before we finish off, please tell everyone where they can find you. Website, socials. I will be putting on Spotify and YouTube, as I always do, information in comments and in the links below, but just give them a little heads up, James. How's best to find you? Cool.
So the main two are Facebook and Instagram, and that's at The Man Coach. I think on Instagram there's 2 underscores. If you want to read the book, you can go to Amazon. It's called It's a State of Mind. I'm not telling you the name of the second one because it's going to be a surprise soon, but the second book is out this year. I'm just putting the final edits to it. You can see my podcast, It's a State of Mind. You can email me at boardmanjames.com, and the website's www.boardmanjames.com. And you can find everything that we do there. So, you know, just reach out if you want to say hi, if you want to ask me anything, if you want a little bit more elaboration on what we've spoken about. You know,
let me know for sure. Make sure that you hit the like button, drop a comment, let me know any questions that you've got for me or James. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you're on. Pay it forward, as I always say. Don't just share it randomly. Pass it forward to one person who you think it could help. We'd both massively appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to Aesthetically Trained, the podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and spread the word.